and some of the work that's being done at EKU, which I think is important for all of us. And I don't know that there's a topic that's more critical these days than supply chain, as we hear about it, as to whether our kids are going to get their Christmas gifts in time or whether there's going to be enough toilet paper in the supermarket shelves. So Lord knows we need more people who have good supply chain background and services, and EKU certainly has an interesting program. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Kirby. I'm going to kill my video and mute myself, and we'll go from there. Kirby, it's all yours.
All right. Well, it's good to be with everyone tonight. I see a few very familiar faces. It's been a while since we have had an opportunity to meet in person. So again, thank you for the opportunity, Eric, for letting me present, not just on behalf of our global supply chain program, but I'm actually going to give an update on EKU overall. And then I'm also going to talk about our College of Business. Just really quickly here, a bit about myself. I did spend 22 years in industry. The majority of that was with Corning Incorporated, 2 international assignments. And I came back to the US in 2014. My mother was older and in rapidly declining health. She had me, my father and my mother had me later in life. And I wanted to come back to the US to care for her. And it worked out just perfectly. EKU was wanting to launch a supply chain program. I thought I would be in academia for a couple years, get the program up and running, and then move back to Corning. I've had that opportunity several times, but I'm really enjoying being at the university. I teach at EKU full-time. I teach at UK part-time. I think everybody knows, maybe some of you don't, but this is the second year of UK's new Masters of Science in Supply Chain Management, the only MS program in supply chain management in the state. So my contact information is here. Most of you I'm in regular contact with, but would certainly love to hear from you. Again, I'm going to talk about EKU overall, our College of Business, and then specifically we'll go into supply chain management. This is informal. If you have a question, you don't have to the end. I would welcome a question or questions at any point. If we look at EKU overall, this is our first semester back on campus since spring 2020. So like most universities, we've been operating in a mostly online, somewhat hybrid mode for the last 2 years, but we are back on campus this semester. Overall, if you look at EKU, our enrollment is actually up compared to the last academic year. We're the only university in Kentucky, if you look at the last bullet point, to have a higher freshman enrollment this year compared to this last year. So we're up 214 students. We also take pride at EKU in being the school of opportunity. So if you look for the last 4 or 5 years, we have led all of the state institutions with the highest percentage of in-state students, and then also first generation students. About 35% of our freshmen are first generation college students. There's been quite a bit of reorganization, realignment going on at EKU over the last year. Our College of Business and Technology has, I guess, demerged, and the College of Business is now a standalone comprehensive business school. And the technology part of, again, what was formerly the College of Business and Technology, we now have a new STEM college at EKU. We're very excited about that. And we're in the process of rolling out this next academic year. So fall 2022, we're going to be rolling out a manufacturing engineering program. And we're currently putting together an advisory board. I've been using a lot of my business contacts and reaching out to manufacturing engineers and so forth at the different companies across Central Kentucky. And we're very excited not only about the new STEM college overall, but in particular, the new manufacturing engineering program. Dr. Tom Erickson, Eric and several others know that name. Tom has been our Dean of the College of Business and Technology since I joined in 2014. We actually joined at the same time. Tom has about 50 years in higher education, and he's in the process of retiring. So this academic year, he's not our Dean, but rather he is you might say, the program director leading that new manufacturing engineering program. We recently received our largest donation in school history. And we also just recently, this semester, we joined a new athletics conference, the ASCM. And we're very pleased that attendance is up in all of our athletic teams. Any comments or questions about the university overall? Just wanted to touch on some highlights. Let me go on then and talk about the College of Business. So as I said, Dr. Erickson is transitioning into retirement. The dean search is underway. We hope to have finalists. We plan to have some finalists in January and go through the vetting process. And the goal is to have the new dean in place this upcoming summer 2022, such that, starting with the next academic year, he or she is acclimated and ready to start the new academic year. We're focusing a lot on growth programs at EKU and the College of Business. Money in banking is a very hot area. Supply chain, of course, my area. We recently dedicated a new sales center. And we're also supporting the university with traditionally our business school and EKU overall. We've been a little bit slow with eCampus and online course offerings, and we're hustling to catch up. So, for example, about half of our supply chain degree, the courses in our supply chain program, are now offered online. So for the most part, a student could be in our supply chain program and go mostly online the first 3 years, and then come to campus for just the 4th year. And the expectation is that within a few years, our entire supply chain program will be online. We have a new online MBA program, complements our in-person. We had an MBA program at EKU. This is our 54th year, but just this year, we have rolled out a new online MBA program, again, targeting those students for whatever reason don't have the ability or prefer an online experience. We have the AACSB reaccreditation coming up this next year. AACSB, everybody on the call will know what ISO is. Well, AACSB is a very similar type of organization as ISO. They ensure quality standards and so forth for business schools all across the world. You may find it interesting that only about 5% of colleges of business worldwide have that accreditation. It's sort of the gold standard for business schools. Just today, I'm very pleased to share about the Salvation Army canned food drive. There's a link there to the story that EKU just recently published. This is something that I have led pre-COVID just for my supply chain students, but in talking with our interim dean, we did something different this semester, and we made it an entire College of Business opportunity for all students, all majors, all faculty. And we set a goal, 2,500 cans. And as of today, we took the last load of canned food over. We collected 3,389 cans of food. And we're very excited about that. It was a wonderful opportunity, a wonderful experience for our students. Not only did we take, over 3,000 cans of food, we also had our students kitting, making meal bags and so forth for those that are homeless or passing through Madison County, whatever the case might be. But the majority of those cans are going to make holiday meal boxes for families in need. So we're very proud of our, and thankful, I should say, for our outreach opportunities in Madison County. Comment or question, anything about the College of Business before I move on to what's most near and dear to us, supply chain? All right, I'll move on then. So our supply chain program, again, was launched in 2014. So this is the 8th year. We were the first supply chain program amongst the state's 8 public universities. Since then, some of the other public universities have added supply chain programs. I mentioned UK earlier. This is the 2nd year of their master's degree in supply chain. UK does not have a bachelor's in supply chain. And I think that's one of the reasons that they reached out to me a couple years ago and said, well, if EKU has the most robust supply chain program in the state, from an undergrad perspective, then obviously they wanted to recruit some of those students to get their master's degree. Our supply chain program, I think, is unique. If you look at universities and colleges across America that say they have supply chain programs, when you look at it, a great many of them is actually logistics programs. And as we all know, logistics and supply chain aren't the same thing. Logistics is part of supply chain, just like sourcing and planning and production and quality and all of those things. So our supply chain program is robust, it's comprehensive. It doesn't just cover one pillar of the SCORE framework. And again, this is the foundational framework. We also talk about return and enable, those things. But I just wanted to give you an idea. If you look down in the lower part of this slide and you see all of these asterisks, you can see these are examples of topics that we cover in our classes. It's a very robust program. So again, I just wanted to highlight these are, and this isn't all inclusive by any means, but this does give a nice representation of the types of things that we do talk about in class. And of course, we are constantly, webbing in topics, for example, whether it's COVID or the problems at the ports or whatever it might be. We're always integrating real world issues as they happen. Obviously, we want to be the first school employers think of for supply chain talent. These are some of the heavyweight companies you might say. TMMK, Lockheed Martin takes a lot of our students. Hitachi takes a lot of our students, as well as Carhartt. We have some students now that are working for Yum at the corporate level. One of our students from a few semesters ago, he's working in capital procurement on the Taco Bell side of Yum. So his job is to negotiate for all of the equipment that's used, in essence, in the kitchen area of Taco Bells nationwide. We'll look at the next slide, some things that makes our program unique. Again, it's comprehensive. We do put a very heavy emphasis on interpersonal skills, professional skills, effective writing, critical thinking, meeting deadlines. Those are all things that we get a lot of feedback from employers that students graduate and they come to work that generally these types of issues are at a higher level than students that new graduates that they might compete with. A lot of engagement with industry professionals. I'll talk more about internships in a few minutes. We bring a lot of guest speakers to campus. We do field trips. Probably should think of a better name than field trips, but for example, we just took 2 of our classes to Thunder Manufacturing here in Richmond. Thunder is a large stamping company for the automotive industry. We do a lot of those kinds of things. Something I would like to really highlight for folks online here, our students typically when they become juniors and seniors, many of them are able to work out their schedule to where they're only on campus 2 days a week. So at EKU, our classes are on, in our business school, I should say, our classes are on Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or night classes. Our night classes meet one night a week, 6 to 8:30 roughly. So when our students become juniors and even more so seniors, often they're able to work out their course load to where they're only on campus 2 days a week. And what that allows them is to a large degree, 3 days of working part-time, whether we call it an internship or a co-op, whatever it might be. We don't have classes on Fridays. So again, a lot of our students that intern, many of them can work upwards of 25 to 30 hours a week. And as I mentioned, we do a lot in the community. Salvation Army is just one example, God's Pantry. We did some work just prior to COVID with making these little backpacks for kids in the county school systems that are in need of food over the weekend. So they could pick up these food backpacks on a Friday as they leave school, and it has food and so forth for them to eat on. They bring the backpack back on a Monday, and the cycle repeats. So we do a lot of things in the community. We raised money a year or so ago, and basically went to a child development center here in Richmond, predominantly lower income, and had a little Christmas party with those kids. And we had one of the students dress up like Santa, and had cookies and things like that. And we try to really foster that servant leadership approach. This is the picture here on the left. This was the trip to Thunder Manufacturing that I mentioned just a couple weeks ago. This was the plant manager of Thunder. And I particularly like this picture. You can see just how engaged and how intently the students are listening and taking notes and so forth. This particular slide just highlights some of the different companies and roles that our students go into. A lot of them actually start out as entry-level buyers or a logistician. Some of them start out, working in quality, supplier quality. Some of them work in areas that You can see one of the grads went to work for SpaceX out in California, and that was pretty exciting. So you look through this list, and it's a pretty blue chip listing of companies in the entry level type roles that you might expect. So talking about internships, I'm very excited about this. Of all the different programs in our College of Business, our supply chain program, we've had more internships than any other program. You think about accounting as an example, but we've had over 150 paid internships since 2014. Our interns, they earn good money, typically $15 to $25 an hour. This picture is only about 2 days old, so I took this picture earlier in the week, and I just highlight these students. You see this young lady on the left. She was our first intern with H.T. Hackney, a food distributor, this past summer. And now she is a supply chain intern with Electro Dryer. I think many of you all are familiar with Electro Dryer. This young man in the middle, he's our first ever intern with Clark Equipment in Lexington. And then this young man on the right, he parlayed the trip to Thunder Manufacturing that I've mentioned a few times now. He struck up a conversation with the plant manager when we were touring 2 or 3 weeks ago, and now he's our first supply chain intern with Thunder. And very proud of those students. You can see this is just a small listing, a short listing of companies where our students intern. Again, Clark is the new one, Lockheed Martin. BMW, this was interesting. We haven't had very many of these instances, but one of our students, this has been about a year ago, was offered just a phenomenal semester-long internship at BMW. And it was a full-time internship. He worked about 50 hours a week in South Carolina. And so he, in essence, took, a semester off because of, it's being such a wonderful opportunity. He took a semester off from his academic studies. I think he maybe took 2 online courses, something like that. But for the most part, he worked full time as an intern at BMW in Spartanburg. And we also, this last summer, we had our first corporate internship with Walmart. And that young lady, if you look up Autumn Robinson on LinkedIn, she just did a big posting today. She graduates in May. Walmart just made her a tremendous offer. She's going to be moving to one of the Walmart distribution centers in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Very proud of her. About 99% of our supply chain students receive full-time offers upon graduating. It was a solid 100%. But of course, with COVID early on, there were a few students that kind of got caught with having job offers rescinded and so forth at the start of COVID. And companies, very different problem than we're having now, but a very, very high placement rate. A lot of our students have 2 or 3 offers to choose from upon graduating. This young lady here, Joelle Ferguson, she's had multiple internships, and about 90% of our supply chain students who intern receive a job offer from that company upon graduating. I don't know what the benchmark is, but I think that's a pretty high number. And I think it just shows how highly our students are valued, that when they go into an internship role, it's sort of a test drive, right? It's a test drive of the student to see their capability and their professionalism, the value that they add and that 90% of those students would receive a job offer, I think is a testament to our program. This is a picture from a few years ago. You'll see Eric in the back, and there I am standing right next to him. I don't know if we have anybody else on the phone that's in this picture. But pre-COVID, we were doing these joint student and professional chapter on-campus meetings once a year. You can see Dean Erickson over here on the right. And of course, with, again, COVID, we haven't been able to do this for the last 2 years, but this is something we would definitely like to start doing again in the very near future. So in summary, if you look at our College of Business and our global supply chain, it is the #1 fastest growing program at EKU. And in fact, it's in the top 5 fastest growing programs at the entire university. And when we look at that, we're looking at the growth in enrollment. The program didn't exist until 2014. So to go from, non-existent to classroom sizes of, upwards of 50 students, that is not common. That is not common indeed. Again, near 100% job placement, average starting salary, and of course that's going up right now. It's a good time to be a graduating college. So many companies hiring. I'll be interested in seeing what our new grads, graduate next May. But 90% of our students start out in the 40 to 55,000 range, 48 to 55,000. That's where most of our students start out. We have had students that start out, in the low 70s, 22-year-old, graduating, going to work, low 70,000 range. Again, over 150 internships with some of the best, most well-known companies in the region. And maybe there's some folks on the line here that there's something I've said that you're like, hey, I'm interested in an EKU intern myself. Well, you have all my contact information. Okay. Our plans for 2022, I'm actually working on this right now. We're moving our supply chain program from the general business department over to the management department. If you look at supply chain programs across the U.S., about half of them are, I should say about a third belong to the marketing department. About a third belong to the management department. And the other third, typically the general business programs. But we are in the process of moving over to the management department, which will give us some advantages with sharing faculty and so forth. We do want to restart our executive speaker series. Just to talk a bit more about the executive speaker series, we're always bringing guest speakers to campus. We do that many times, per semester on a recurring basis. The supply chain executive speaker series is typically when we bring a C-suite executive. For example, Tanya Jackson of Lexmark came and spoke. William Hardy, the chief supply chain officer for Carhartt. We're typically bringing a very, very high level executive to campus. And it's not just a presentation. It's typically lunch with students, a time of just engaging and networking. There's typically a period of time to meet with the supply chain faculty and just share. Here's what we're teaching in the classroom, and conversely, here are the hot topics in industry. Something really wonderful is happening here in the Commonwealth. Now, that is the Department of Education is wanting to roll out supply chain curriculums as an option in our high schools. So I think back, I graduated high school in 1988, and at that time we called it vocational school, and you could study, drafting or carpentry or, automotive mechanics, welding, those sort of things. Well, those types of programs still exist, but there are a lot more career-ready type fields that high school students can take. And we actually rolled out our first supply chain curriculum for high school students this semester. And I think there will be many more high schools in 2022 that will have supply chain curriculums that juniors and seniors can pursue. And I think that will certainly help with having more students that are aware of what supply chain is when they come to college. That's one of the challenges. As you all might imagine, very few students come to college saying, I want to be a supply chain manager. They just are not aware of the field. They typically know, well, I want to study accounting, or I want to study marketing, or I want to be an HR person. So I think, there's going to be an additional benefit with teaching, having these supply chain programs in our high schools, that more students will come to college with knowing, I want to study supply chain for my 4-year degree. I'm excited to tell you something on a personal note. I am actively writing a new book. It's called Cool Kirby's Supply Chain Adventures. And several textbook companies have contacted me over the last 2 years wanting me to write a traditional college textbook on supply chain. And that honestly just never excited me. There's not a shortage of supply chain textbooks. I thought, what am I going to say that's going to be any different than some other college textbook? But I got to thinking that, I would like to write, not necessarily a textbook, but I would like to write a novel, you might say, that introduces supply chain management to high school students. And, maybe those college freshmen that are undecided about a career and looking for more information. So Cool Kirby is a manufacturer of high-end skateboards and looking to expand internationally. And so this book, which will be out next summer, it'll be in college bookstores, it'll be on Amazon. I expect it, will be in Barnes and Noble and so forth. This book will be, again, geared towards high school students and college freshmen and sophomore that, again, are undecided, but something that's more interesting to read than a textbook per se. So I'm very excited about this. All right, so wrapping up here, if you have an interest in an EKU student as an intern or a full-time job, there's really 2 different paths. This very nice lady here, Darlene Stalker, if you reach out to her, she will do a posting for any College of Business student to apply. So if you contact her, you may have, for example, a student that you're looking for a supply chain student, but a finance student or an HR student might apply, and that would be fine. If you contact me, I'm only going to send you supply chain students. Okay, I can certainly help you if you're looking for a student in a different area, and building the relationships that I have over the last 8 years with the different companies in the region. I often have companies contact me and they're like, hey, Kirby, we're looking for an entry-level accountant, or we're looking for an entry-level HR person. Well, I teach those students too. They take my classes. But if you contact me looking for a supply chain student, then I'm going to screen them. I'm going to vet them. I always tell people, and I mean it sincerely, I'm never going to send you anybody that I wouldn't hire or want on my team if I was still in industry. Okay. So 2 different paths. And again, I shared my email and or my cell phone rather at the beginning of the meeting. Folks, that's all I have for EKU overall and our College of Business and our supply chain program. Hope you found it beneficial, a good use of your time, and I'll simply offer it up to any questions that you might have.
So Kirby, thank you. I have a quick question for you. With your certification or your certification program that you have there, what's the majors that these students have that adds to the strength that these kids bring to supply chain?
Eric, can you say that a little bit different way? I'm not sure.
Yeah, let me think of it a little different way. So they're not getting a bachelor's in supply chain. They're getting bachelor's in other diploma areas, which may make them a much stronger student in many ways, or more a stronger potential employee, because they've got a broader, more general knowledge in addition to the stuff that they've learned about supply chain in general.
Okay, let me talk about that. So at EKU, like most other universities, a 4-year program, our students take the general ed classes, the music appreciation and the literature and the health and all of those courses that we all took their first 2 years. Our 3rd year, we have a very robust, what we call the business core. In the business core, all of our business students are, for example, taking an introduction to information systems and accounting and HR and finance and marketing and management. And then in the 4th year is where the student typically really focuses in on their particular area of interest, whether that be supply chain or whatever it might be. I will tell you that at EKU, for example, we have a bachelor's in accounting, and under accounting, we have public accounting and we have managerial accounting. Well, in management, we have a management degree, and then we have human resource management. We have entrepreneurship, and we're soon going to, as I mentioned, move supply chain from general business over to management. Now at EKU, this isn't any different than any other university. For example, I got my master's at Penn State, and at Penn State, it's their bachelor's degree program is a bachelor's in marketing with a concentration in supply. We have it at EKU. It's a bachelor's in general business with an emphasis in supply chain, 30 hours of studies in the supply chain field. And it'll simply be going forward a bachelor's degree in management with an emphasis in supply chain. So our supply chain curriculum won't change. It'll just be the name on the degree at the higher level that changes. Good question.
Yeah, thanks. It just shows the breadth that some of these students really have, and why they're attracted to other organizations.
Yeah, and I should mention a little bit, this semester is the first semester that our business core hadn't been refreshed in about 15 years. So over the course of the last year, we have been working and developing, and just this semester, we rolled out a new business core. And this won't surprise any of you, but I made sure that every business student, let me get this exactly right, every business student at EKU now takes a course in supply chain management. And I'm very excited about that. So regardless of whether they study HR or finance or marketing or whatever it might be, all of our business students now take a supply chain course.
Great.
Any other comments or questions? I know that didn't nearly take the full hour. I'm
Okay.
won't hold that against me.
No.
I could answer any other questions you have.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Kirby?
Yeah, this is David Gross. I've got a quick question. I know normally we have, specific supply chain roles, but at Lexmark where I work in supply chain as well as service. Have you ever had any students interested in the service side of the supply chain? How do we provide customer service to?
We do. It's an area that going forward, I just made this comment earlier in the week, David, that, we always want to continuously improve our program, that we may need a supply chain services course. I have 2 young ladies right now that are interning with the Lexus group. And the Lexus group owns Lexus dealerships from Tennessee to Michigan. And these young ladies are, very focused on what, things that they can do to optimize the overall customer service, things that they can do at looking at, all of the different types of replacement and repair parts, doing some kind of Pareto analysis and looking at, this part turns over this many times per month, or this few times per month, whatever the case might be. So we have quite a few students actually that are working in supply chain services roles. And I know, as I'm always benchmarking other supply chain programs across the United States, that many programs now have a dedicated course in the area. Certainly on my radar. That's a wonderful question.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll back. By the way, I'm a representative for, if you know Billy Spears.
Yes, he's on our advisory board. Yes.
For the student hiring in his area. So I'll be in touch because we have a couple of openings in the area. But they're more in the service space than they are in the traditional supply chain space. So
yes,
understand that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free, all of you, to text or call, email at any time. Any other comments or questions? Well, if not, again, thank you for your all's time. Thank you, Eric, for the invitation. And I'll just close by wishing everyone, hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family. Thanks,
Kirby. And we'll be sharing this recording with Steve Ross, so the ASQ folks have an example of it as well as out on our ASCM line. And again, everybody have a great Thanksgiving, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good